So great. Oh my god! It's the funniest thing ever.
Actually, this meeting was very late night. It was almost midnight, and 기립박수가 되게 길게 이어지는데 저런 배우들이 다 되게 배가 고팠어요. 저녁을 제대로 못 먹어가지고.
So the standing ovation lasted very long, but the actors and I were very hungry because we couldn't eat.
News Radio 1170 WWDA.
Watch out for the weather out there today. Storm watch in effect for West Virginia, Ohio, Pennsylvania. Cities included are Pittsburgh. So it's going to be a nasty bag of weather. Let's just put it that way. A couple of local stories for you. I'm working on a story out of Steubenville that is very, very disturbing. I can't give you many details right now. It's just one of those stories that you're talking about underage kids, and you just have to cross a couple more T's. For Paul Morgan, I'm Bloom Daddy. Beck coming at you next. I'll see you tomorrow, same time.
It was early morning. Jane Doe, the victim, started getting text messages and chats. Picture was actually sent by a friend who said, "I think this is you." The parents made a report of sexual assault, and I interviewed her that afternoon. It wasn't actually a very long interview when it comes down to it, because she couldn't remember much. She knows she had been drinking, and others had been drinking as well. Her next memory is waking up in the morning, then Sunday morning of the 12th of August. Can't find her phone. She's not wearing any clothes. She's under a blanket. And in the room were both Trent Mays and Malik Richmond. Trent Mays was the primary suspect, and Malik Richmond was seen as having had some involvement. I advised them that they do have rights, and both had chosen not to give a statement. Thank you. Trying to get the truth from kids who, in a sense, are telling on friends. That's maybe one of the biggest obstacles to overcome.
Here,
doing? You sure? You nervous? Okay. All right.
Nothing to be nervous about. We don't bite.
You won't bite. Won't yell. Probably won't jump up and down and scream. But you were there. None of us were there.
Right.
So you saw things. You understood things. You heard things. Michael, those
No, yeah.
no hands. Sorry. I need to know from you everything of your Saturday evening through Sunday.
Okay. Well, first we went to my friend's house. Do you need names or if they're not involved or anything?
I need everything, Mike.
Everything, okay.
I mean, I walked in, and she's, like, there was a bunch of Central girls, and I was the only one from Big Red there at the point, but, like, so I was kind of uncomfortable, and she was the only one who, like, said hi to me, and she was like, hey, but I could tell that she was gradually getting more drunk and worse throughout the night. And then Mark, Trent, Malik, and Evan, I think, wanted to go. We just kept trying to tell her, you don't want to go with them, you want to go back with your friends, or you're going to be more safe with them than you will with the boys.
Let me just say something here. What made you use that phrase, safer with us versus Trent and others?
Well, I mean, because I put myself in her situation, like, in my head, and I know that she didn't know, like, Malik or Mark or Evan, and she only knew Trent. And if I was her, like, I would rather be with friends, like, girls, than I would be with them. And, like, wake up at some boy's house and not knowing, like, what happened. Like, if she was my friend, like, if she was my close friend, then I would take the extra step and, like, make her stay. But, you know, I can't do that, so I just let her do what she wanted, which I understand was wrong.
They were helping someone out. Well, as I was walking in, they were helping a girl out.
Who was it? They.
I think it was. I know Trent was helping her. It might have been Malik was helping her too, but I can't remember.
We were in communication with the prosecution, and they said there's grounds to make an arrest. So the week later, they were arrested.
When I first read this story, there wasn't a lot of substance to the article. 2 high school football players had been charged, just a couple of paragraphs about these 2 boys, and that was it. I thought, this is nuts because that town is so entrenched in their football team. This is big news. I've been blogging for a long time, usually about true crime cases. Not everything is as it seems. If something stinks, I'm going to be the first person that calls it out. Where's your chili at? Being from Steubenville, I developed a sense of what the community was like. Good girl. To me, it wasn't a very woman-friendly environment. So that's when I started snooping around. I went to the high school's website, pulled the roster of all the football players, and I started searching for any social media that they may have had online. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, everyone had their full legal name. And I determined that after a scrimmage game for Big Red High School, There were several end of the summer parties that all of the kids were attending. There were tweets going around, everyone's having a great time, but then something changed. I sat up for hours and hours and just followed timelines, fanning out, who was retweeting what at a certain time. So it was almost like watching this in real time. By the end of the night, a young girl from across the river had been sexually assaulted. I was shocked. It's like a rotten onion. You peel one layer back and there's something equally as rotten underneath it.
Roll, Red, roll. Now, live from Harding Stadium, the home of the Big Red.
Kids are back in school. That can mean only one thing. It's time for high school football. The 2012 version of Steubenville Big Red opens the season with an opponent who's making his third trip to the Bill. The Tigers of C.C. Woodrow Wilson.
We are still working a little blind off of just the evidence that we've been given. But this is being texted about. It's being tweeted, and it's amongst a student body that has just gotten into school. This was a tough enough investigation already because it involves people who all know each other.
Anything else, sir? Right. 16. I've been in that atmosphere. I've been in that kind of situation that those kids was in. And 9 times out of 10, and I'm not trying to call no one no or nothing, but 9 times out of 10, a woman engaged in it. Best way to put it. It's never been like, come on, let's go in this room and I got to drag you. And I've never had, because I take the R word serious. I don't play with, that's one word I will not play with. May I help you?
Yes, pick up for a blocker.
Is it a cake?
I think it was a party that got out of hand. When that kind of stuff happened when I was in school, you were a bad boy, you got suspended or disciplined. Now they want to put you in jail. And I'm not condoning any of it. It's just things have changed over the last 40 years.
Most of the people what I heard talking, a lot of people would say, oh, you should see the picture she posted on Instagram, you should have seen the outfit she had on, and everybody was talking bad about Jane Doe, and I can't even imagine everybody in the area knowing, that that's my child, and this is what they did to her, and it's heartbreaking.
About at 7:45, this is the latest on the incident out of Steubenville. All I can tell you is this. It's a she said, he said right now without a doubt. Anybody can make an allegation. These girls at these parties sometimes maybe drink a little bit too much. Sometimes they get a little promiscuous. All of a sudden they're being called, a whore, what have you. And it's real easy to all of a sudden say you were taken advantage of rather than own up to the fact that, hey, look, I did what I did.
They're seduced too, yeah.
It's easier to tell your parents you were raped than, hey, Mom, Dad, I got drunk and decided to let 3 guys have their way with me. That's all I'm saying, based on who I've spoken to.
It wasn't just that she was raped, that they humiliated her. Song of the night, Rape Me. Noti, Some People Deserve to Be Peed On. Cody Saltzman takes a photo and posts it to Instagram. He tags it Sloppy. I figured at some point this stuff will probably disappear, so I kept screenshots for myself. I used some archive tools to go back looking for deleted information. I mean, once you start reading conversations among all of these kids, then you're going back for months and a year. I mean, you start finding all kinds of things. So, I mean, it was all out there. Just the complete lack of empathy. That was what was so frightening. And, you know, I had seen some local forums where the discussion was already escalating that she was not raped. And the victim blaming is starting by adults. These kids were openly calling it rape. If these kids are calling it rape, they knew it was rape. And it was at that point that I decided to post what was out there. Once I posted, it was mayhem. It got to the point that I couldn't even read through all the comments. I mean, people were upset, they were mad. It was crazy, the amount of traffic coming from Steubenville. But I think when people actually saw screen captures of what these kids were saying, it caused a very visceral reaction. People have a right to know.
Amen. Father and Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen. It seemed as if it hit social media and just exploded. As soon as the word was out, I started following the story. There were photographs starting to circulate already, and deleted text and all this type of stuff was going on. And the earliest photographs were very disturbing. You know, the idea of an incapacitated girl being drug around, you know, is horrible. And as a father, that's horrible. I mean, the last thing you want to do is imagine your daughter in that type of situation, or your boys in that type of situation.
I don't know. Maybe I'm sheltered. I don't even know how do you have children that think that that's okay. If that would happen to one of my kids, I can't even imagine. Can't even imagine.
Like maybe if she had been sending or posting inappropriate pictures of herself that possibly made the boys do what they did, and you can become known as a not so good person just for that. We weren't allowed to have Facebook until we were 16. I know a lot of people have created accounts behind their parents' backs. So you have the nice, perfect daughter account that mom sees, and then you have the little slut account that everyone else sees.
Honestly, this is terrible, but I didn't think that much about it. Yes, the boys were definitely not on the right, but she was also at a party that she probably shouldn't have been at.
She has to take responsibility for the choice she made to go to that party.
When you put yourself in that situation, you have to take some responsibility for your actions.
It was just a regular night, just a regular party. People just chilling for the most part. And I wasn't with them for, a portion of the night. That's when things got terrible.
Yeah, that's my boy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He wrestled with me. He wrestled a weight class above me. We are partners, like, really.
Growing up here was awesome. Football and all that in sports, like, it's like a brotherhood forever that you'll ever be a part of. Like a fraternity you can never get out of.
What our coaches and stuff told us, like integrity, courage, self-discipline, take responsibility in everything you do, and do right by yourself and by others. You know, in the manliest way possible, and you know what I mean?
Trent got arrested. So we're just like, man, we're down a quarterback, like.
Yeah.
I'm going to read you a couple of emails. Let me start with this one. If you Google this Alex Goddard, she is indeed a cyberbully. What she's doing now, posting screenshots of tweets made by innocent kids, is a sin. Just because a kid retweets a post or replies to a post doesn't mean that kid had anything to do with the rape. It's just creating more victims. Printingfield.com is not doing this community any favors. Continue to cover this news in a fair and balanced way. That's what separates the journalists from the others.
We got an email from someone that lives in the city of Steubenville, and it said, please pay attention to this. The local media is not going to pay attention to it. I did some preliminary looking, and I realized if we don't cover it, I'm not sure it will get covered the way it needs to. I probably covered hundreds of rape cases. You're always going to get two very different sides, but this was just at another level. We didn't know exactly what happened, but we knew there was a lot of defensiveness about it. For my initial piece, I did talk to Alex Goddard. What she was finding and what she was hearing was all playing into the context, was all playing into the feeling of what was going on down there. She helped raise a lot of questions about why people were responding so viscerally to everything that was going on. The question was, is this football town, putting its daughters at risk by protecting its sons in a situation like this? I attempted to talk to the coach. It was kind of hard even to get into the stadium. A lot of people were kind of, dirty looking me when I tried to get down there. And I just wanted to ask him, did he know what his players were saying? Did he know what they were doing on social media? And he got really frustrated and started talking about how I got to protect these guys and, these are not bad kids and stuff like that. He didn't seem to really understand the gravity of the statements that some of the players were making, the context in which his players were speaking about young women in the town.
We asked School Superintendent Michael McVeigh why responsibility for disciplining any other players admittedly at the party was given to the football coach.
Do you see a possible conflict of interest there?
Protocol was followed, sir.
What is the protocol? Did you and the principal defer to the football coach?
We followed our discipline protocol as we usually do. And once everything's over, when the facts are out, then we will make our decisions of what has to be done or who was involved or who was not involved.
What did happen? Did you meet with Trent and Mark Cole? What did they tell you? Nothing. They said, Coach, we did not screw that girl. We left the party, and her girlfriends told her not to come with us. We didn't want her to come with us. She started arguing with her girlfriends, and
got in the car with us. I said, did you kidnap this girl? They said, no. I said, did you put her in the trunk of a car? Because that's what was going on. They said, Coach, we never did none of that. She came with us. And I said, did you rape her? They said, no. I said, did you her? They said, no. That was the end of it. That was it. It was oh no. So as a group, every day after practice, I would say to the kids, if you have anything to say, tell me. I'll help you out. I won't defend you if you're wrong, but I'll support you. That's what I said every day to them after practice. And those two boys, both of them told me that they were drinking that night. So I was going to suspend them. Well, this thing got so up that I didn't do anything because they would make them look guilty. And that's how I felt. So that's why I didn't suspend those two boys. You know, I told them exactly how I felt about the drinking. And I said, you count this as a favor from God. I said, because if you're drinking, you're off this team. Even when you took their phones, I said, rape. They didn't get them for rape. I said, they didn't rape her. I said, they might have screwed her. You're right, they did.
Well, wait. They would not have been arrested if there wasn't strong evidence to say that they raped her. And any kind of penetration on any part of her body is what's under rape. And I'm going to realize that. That's another thing the public is really stupid on.
So can't you use another word from rape?
Coach.
No.
I don't come over to
I'm just saying, if it's such a big...
Well, the other piece comes in this, that the person is not able to consent. Okay? They can't say yes or no. If someone is so out of it, they can't give you a yes, sure, I can have sex, or no.
And I hope the truth does come out. Even if they're guilty of rape, but they didn't do this and that and whatever everybody's saying they did, I hope, that the truth comes out.
Pictures, text messages, social media's role in this case, and how it helped us was documentation. There's a date and time. So they provide for us evidence from something about our victims. That span of time, though, she has no memory of. I had never seen a case constructed like this. I have yet to have a case with that many elements in play. That many people who have some information about my victim's process from A, B, C. I mean, she was in 3 different places. So to start, there is this party, and it's in Steubenville, and this first party A, we'll call it.
What's happening at this party? Is this wild party, people jumping all over the place, or is this like everyone's kind of sitting around talking?
Everyone was just, sitting around talking music. It was It was kind of crowded. There was probably about 30 people there.
They were playing games, whatever, beer pong, and people were just like hanging out, talking. Like everyone has their own cliques or groups, and
She was definitely, her and Trent were all over each other the whole night, pretty much.
Okay. When you say all over, just so they kind of help you see that.
Just like, I kind of like holding hands, just hugging and stuff all night, I guess, really. Basically by themselves talking, you know.
Our victim is there, and we know, and she remembers clearly meeting Trent Mays at the party. She already knew him. She already been in communication and contact with him. I do believe, too, that she remembered seeing and maybe having spoken to Malik as well. And from there, they drive to another get-together, let's call it B. Party B is happening over here, and that is still also in Steubenville, not far at all from point A.
And at Jake's, we were just there for a while. I'm not sure how long exactly, but maybe like 45 minutes or so.
Is she different?
Yeah, because she couldn't walk, and
From the time when I seen her at Cammy's and Jake's, it was just completely different. She was completely different, like, and she couldn't even respond really.
That's where the picture was taken. One of the girls talks about how, as they're trying to carry her, Trent's like stepping on her hair. So she says, you guys got to carry her in some other way. So Malik carries her then to the car. We believe that's where her memory is of sitting on a street throwing up.
And I even told Trent, I said, take her back to Cammy's, and he said that he was going to take care of it, and I tried to get it through his head to take her back to Cammy's, but obviously she wanted to go back. He wanted her to go with him, and
I was arguing with Trent that night. I was just so mad. It kind of basically just made me so mad. I just walked inside. I just didn't want to be around it.
She is then brought to C, and we know at C that is where some of the other boys there, they see what happens from Trent and Malik to our victim. There definitely were marked moments during that night where you had hoped for some kind of a hero or someone to step in.
You don't want to call these. Down here. All right. Go right to the corner, okay? How many pictures did you take while you were at the house?
2.
Describe each picture to me.
There was one, it was just her back, basically just her. You couldn't see anything. And then,
What do you mean, just her back?
it was just like her laying on the ground.
Anyone by her?
No. Another one was the one where the boys were actually touching her imperfectly.
There's no other picture that I'm going to find on your phone. If you do take more, please.
I'm trying. No, I'm honestly. Yes, I'm
not where you want to be telling me. It gets processed, and there is more.
I'm honestly trying to think. 2. There might have been 3. It was 2. It was just go with 3.
Okay.
Just in case, because I can't remember. One might have been blurry, or I honestly can't.
What is your intent when you're taking these pictures?
Honestly, I wasn't taking them to make fun of the girl or anything like that. I was like scared and mad at Trent, and at first I took him to show honestly at first my dad, because I was about the whole thing, but then I got so scared and I just deleted it.
At any point did you touch her?
No, I I promise on it.
Well, but you realize you told us before Friday you didn't give us this information, so that's why I'm asking this question again, because it's going to come back and it's going to really haunt you. We're going to want to be able to say, well, this guy's reliable, he told us everything, and then all of a sudden, damn it, here's this.
I'm going to apologize for that. I know it doesn't mean anything, but...
No, Doug, I forgive you, but you got to be straight with me now on. I can't have any punches pulled. You're not coming against Malik, you're not coming against Trent, you're not knocking on anyone, because this is damn serious. We want to know what happened to this girl.
I didn't think that reposting what these kids did was doing anything wrong, because I'm not writing the story here, their words are. Probably 99% of the things that were being whispered in my ear in the background, that's never been put out on the blog. You know, I wasn't going to use my blog as, you know, a gossip mill. You know, people commented on my blog because they wanted an anonymous outlet to talk about this because they feared harassment. Sit. Good boy. But probably after I was sued for defamation of character is when I was really like, they mean business. They're pissed. I think the people in Steubenville, they hate my guts. They hate my freaking guts. And it's okay that they hate me. I did what I thought was the right thing to do. I didn't know whether or not my safety was in jeopardy. After the defamation suit, it created kind of a chilling effect on the blog because people were afraid of commenting since we'd already been sued. I really haven't been blogging a lot since. I've had horrible things said about me. It hurts, but it's their right to have that opinion. I'm not going to file freaking lawsuits. I'm not sure how the New York Times found out. I think the family, by virtue of suing me, brought attention to Steubenville, Ohio. People were bullying and harassing me, but then the tweets changed. Blogger gets sued for defamation, hashtag free speech, hashtag anonymous. And then on Christmas Day, that's when crap hit the fan.
Greetings, citizens of the world. We are anonymous. We are NightSec. Around mid-August 2012, a party took place in a small town in Ohio known as Steubenville. On this fateful night, a life was changed forever as a group of the football players of Big Red High School began taking advantage of an underage girl. This is a call to arms. The girl was sexually assaulted, raped, and drugged unconscious from party to party. We are anonymous. We are Knights. The town of Steubenville has been good at keeping this quiet and their star football team protected. We are anonymous. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Make no mistake. You can hide no longer. You have attracted the attention of the hive. You now have the world looking directly at you. Wise not to shield the guilty. Pop roll, red roll. Engaged. Expect us.
Oh my God! I called him, I was like, boy, that girl. What do they do with that girl? Oh my God. She is so great. Dead body. How do you feel on a dead girl? Are you serious? You want me any foreplay for dead girl? If it ain't wet now, it ain't ever gonna be wet. To be honest, trust me, I'm a dog. She's dead because there was a naked picture on her of laying in the bucket, and she wasn't moving. There's usually a reaction to that. What is wrong with you? She's deader than OJ's wife. Is she gonna feel it? They look dead. Oh my God, bro. Why can't you?
That's like rape. It is rape.
Bro,
they raped her.
you know you do it? Bro.
They raped her.
This is the funniest thing I've ever seen. They raped her harder than that cop raped Marcellus Wallace in Pulp Fiction. They raped her quicker than Mike Tyson raped that one girl. It isn't really rape because you don't know if she wanted to.
The attempts to minimize this were shot to hell when the Michael Nodianos video was published. This is the first time that rape culture was put in their face. You know, a lot of people didn't even know what the word was. What is rape culture? But they do now.
Welcome to Steubenville. We're here for justice. If you got something to say, come up.
I'm gonna speak up. Are you gonna speak up?
We drove past the courthouse and it was a little bit freaky seeing them with the masks and everything. That freaked me out a little bit, and they kept having the rallies downtown and everything, and it was just kind of scary knowing that there was that spotlight on our town now.
We do not forgive, we do not forget.
I admired this girl because she had enough guts to go press charges against her rapist. That's something I didn't get to do. And we need to be there with her when she's in court. We need to help her get through this.
There's a big protest that you can see that's going on right behind me on the steps of the Jefferson County Courthouse.
Over the weekend, more than 1,000 showed up outside the county courthouse.
Shame on you! Shame on you!
NBC, CBS, CNN, Fox, ABC, Dr. Phil, Judge Janine, Piers Morgan, Dr. Drew, you name it, they were in Steubenville. And let me just say this. It was wrong what they did. So nobody out there starts misconstruing. That's why I almost hate, I can't wait for this story to go away.
I just didn't understand it at all because I don't think it's something that doesn't occur in other cities and states and counties all over. I really don't understand what was going on.
My name's
My name
Angela.
is Sarah. I grew up here. I was born and raised here.
And I was born and raised right here in Steubenville.
My name's Alicia. I'm a citizen of Steubenville
And at
here.
the age of 14, I was raped by a star football player that I had a crush on.
I was raped in 2000.
I thought he was so nice. I was drugged, carried limp,
and nothing became of it.
and those friends didn't believe me.
I said no, repeatedly. I was pinned down, and there's no way I could have moved.
I'm 58 years old, and I was sexually assaulted 50 years ago as a child.
It's been over 30 years for me,
And I was 5 years old.
I was raped when I was 11.
When I was 15, I was raped.
When I was in my mid-20s.
And I was raped by 2 high school senior boys who were my babysitters.
I was drugged by a 26-year-old man. A lot of people around me didn't believe me. They thought I was stupid because I went to a party.
I fought for my life because I didn't want it to happen again.
My name is Michelle. I'm 51 years old. Never told anybody. Kept it hidden. And my heart breaks for this little girl.
I wasn't going to speak. I had no intention of going up there and speaking. But as soon as I got there, I don't know what it was. As soon as I saw those steps and those people speaking, I just made a beeline for them steps and went up there, and it's like, I want to talk.
You have no idea what it feels like to go through what I went
Anybody
through.
that's been sexually assaulted wears a mask because of the shame.
For 10 years, I was afraid to walk outside my house.
Didn't want to go to the mall, get out of my car. I was afraid of everything.
I couldn't do anything, and I had nobody, and I was alone.
And until you get your story out there, until you can release that, until you get rid of that shame, that's when the mask comes off.
Thank you all for being here for this girl. She deserves everybody's support.
And I won't put up with that anymore. If you have been assaulted, speak up. It is not your fault. It is not your fault. We're here for you.
The rally was a lot of things, not just a protest. Just to see, to these women getting up there and taking their mask off and then just watching. It's like this transformation because they were able to say it and to release it.
And now, local police are under fire from protesters who say they slow-walked the case to protect the football program.
Protest across the street that we're not doing our job. We were doing our job.
I freak out at just how big this case got. Went through the Twitter accounts and I found, very disturbing messages. There were things online that the local media was not presenting or hadn't found.
I'm extremely proud of what she's done, but she's definitely made a lot of people angry.
La violación no es un deporte. Se lee en uno de los carteles que llevan los manifestantes frente al ayuntamiento de Steubenville en Ohio. La convocatoria la ha hecho una
High School Football Teams aus der US-Stadt Steubenville im Bundesstaat Ohio.
It made me question the culture that we live in. It's kind of that thing you kind of have to step into another person's shoes and realize that, it's a person we're talking about.
We all have a voice. And it will be heard eventually. If not today, tomorrow. It will happen.
This is for Jane Doe. She needs to be protected.
There's been accusations that Jane Doe has to relive this all the time. I question whether or not am I re-exploiting her, and I've struggled with that. This picture's been out there. And when I posted it, I pixelated her entire body out to protect her. And it gets difficult for me because, I'm making her relive this by being vocal and demanding that Steubenville now, that they do the right thing. Sorry.
Let's back up a minute. I'm going to slow you down a little bit, and I'm going to ask you some questions. You may or may not be able to answer, but I believe you'll be able to answer these. What is the conversation that's taking place in regards to either Trent, Malik, Evan, and you? Don't sugarcoat nothing. You're not hurting them guys. Those guys put themselves in this jackpot. In your house. In your mom's house. And here you are, 17? You're a man. Is there anything else, I want you to look him in the eyes, anything else you're leaving out here? Man up. Be responsible for your actions. I know Reno taught you better. You said you're a football player. Man up.
I think they were talking about training her.
Why do you believe they were talking about training her? What makes you believe that?
That's what they were talking about earlier in the night, like when we were first leaving.
They were talking about this in a car?
Yeah, like going to Jake's house.
Who was the one mentioning about the train?
Trent and Malik.
Trent and Malik both?
Yeah.
Okay. And did anybody else say anything in regards to that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
If someone says gang rape, I would say, can you tell me what you mean? Can you tell me more about it? Tell me what happened. If someone said the train, I would say, can you tell me what you mean? I feel like I'm going to get about the same. Numerous people having sex with one person.
So this was well known among everybody, the train thing and their intentions. They were going to get an easy lick because you got zero resistance.
This won't hurt. All I have to do is swallow in your mouth.
A typical case, you have the word of a victim alone, which is sufficient. I mean, the case law and the jury instructions are very clear. The word of a victim alone is sufficient to prove a fact, if believed. And in this case, it was a little different because we had the victim's word that, I don't remember what happened. This was a sexual assault with teenagers, and the cell phones told the story.
Our client, Trenton Mays, did not rape the young lady in question, and it's the state's burden of proof to show that he did.
I think this was unique in the sense that Anonymous got involved. Certainly it was unique in the media attention it garnered. The stress level for the victim was off the charts. This was kind of foisted upon her because no matter what, she still gets scrutinized, even though, she's not the person accused of a crime. Michael Nodianis, who was not there at Mark's house, his video, in a very odd way, became the backbone of our investigation because we could tell who was saying what But his video is not a crime. It does shock your conscience, but it's not a crime. Cody Saltzman. He's the one that posted the first picture on Instagram. But that in and of itself is not a crime. Yes, we had photos. We had 400,000 text messages. Even with the mountain of social media, we could not prove penetration without eyewitnesses. The three individuals, the three boys in the room with Trent and Malik were Mark Cole, it was his house, Anthony Craig, who took photos, and Evan Westlake. And he was the one who, of course, made the video.
It's the funniest thing ever.
I could not prove penetration without them. So we had to give them immunity.
The town of Steubenville, Ohio, has been rocked by allegations that two of its star high school football players raped a 16-year-old girl last summer. Now, this case has drawn national attention, and this morning the two teens go on trial.
My client was a juvenile, so he has limited number of years on the earth to even know the quality of the decisions and or the ramifications. God made him big. He also made him shy. And he's in a town that's depressed. He's in a town that loved this football team. And a lot of it was circumstantial for him. Based on the evidence, a lot of it was wrong place, wrong time.
What we had to prove is that the defendants engaged in sexual conduct in a circumstance where the victim is substantially impaired.
Well, in the state of Ohio, the law is that if one is substantially impaired, then they cannot properly give consent. Even if they do give consent, the impairment negates the consent that was given. If both parties, as was in this case, were intoxicated, and if that's the basis for rape, the question becomes, who raped who? The young lady admitted to drinking alcohol. She admitted to drinking a large cup of alcohol. While in this state where she can't recall events, the victim here gave access code to her cell phone. Giving someone access to a phone is a form of consent. And this is not a victim blame, but this young girl consented at one point in the evening to being in a company of these young boys. People would say it's okay for this young woman to have made this choice, but the moment that the choice was wrong, it's not her fault anymore.
So now, how do you all get her downstairs?
Malik carried her.
Malik carried her?
Trent or both of them carried her.
Downstairs?
Yeah.
Okay. Who's all now downstairs?
Me, Trent, Malik, and Evan.
Okay. So now, what did he do with the girl at that point?
They had set her on the floor, and she was sitting there, and that's when, like...
And this is like, what, a rec room, or what do you have downstairs here?
Down in my rec room, there's a coffee table, and there's two couches.
Okay.
And TVs up here, so she was sitting, like, in front of the TV, all those. She was sitting there for a second, and she just, like, leaned back over, like, fell to her side, and that's when she threw up on the floor, and I had cleaned it up. That's when I got a call from Anthony Craig.
What's the first thing you see when you get in that house?
Mark they were in the basement, and I was like, where are they?
Where's Evan at?
When I saw him, he went back to the couch.
Okay.
When she was on the floor, I know Malik was behind her, fingering her. And just one time I seen Trent put his penis on her.
Where at? When he puts it on or where? On what part?
Her butt.
Okay. Does he try to insert his penis into her mouth?
Yes.
And what is she doing?
Just laying there.
Okay. Was she saying anything?
No. I wouldn't say she was completely passed out and out of it, but she wasn't in any state to make a decision for herself.
Malik was very much following the lead sent by Trent Mays. You didn't see Malik try to manipulate the victim. She didn't know Malik, but Trent Mays, he had really singled her out. She had met Trent before these parties and was interested in dating him. She thought she knew him and she thought she could trust him. He played on that. He knew who she was. He knew she was an outsider. He knew how drunk she was. There's no question about that because everybody there did. He used that. You know, come with me. Come to this other party. Come into the car. He used her like a toy.
What are we going to find on your phone?
On my phone, you will find a picture.
What picture?
It was her laying on the couch.
Why will that picture be on your phone?
Trent sent it to me.
And when did he send it to you?
In the morning.
These other boys weren't asking for the picture. Trent was sending it out to make fun of her, to degrade her even further. If you're looking at photos, you're a witness. If you're passing the photos, that's a crime. Even if it's to your buddy and you think it's a big joke, that's a crime.
I did delete that because I knew that something should be on my phone.
And why shouldn't it be on your phone?
At the time, I wasn't even thinking about like the child pornography. I just knew there was something that, because I don't know this girl or anything. I just didn't think it should be on my phone.
That gives you some insight into Trent Mays' personality. You talk about predatory nature, and then you see it like that in such a young kid that has so much promise otherwise on the outside. And it makes you stop and wonder, you know, how does that happen?
Is there anything that Trent Mays would like to say?
I would truly like to apologize to our family, my family, and the community. No picture should have been sent around, let alone even taken. That's all, sir. Thank you.
Anything you'd like to say, Malik?
I would like to apologize to you people. I had no intention to do anything like that. I'm sorry to put you guys through this. That is not. I'm sorry, I didn't want to.
This case does highlight the power of peer pressure. Everybody was saying stuff. Everybody was laughing about it. But there were kids that we met during our investigation who were, for the most part, really good kids. Like Sean McGee, who were like, no, this is all wrong.
Well, yeah, I had to testify in court. it was terrible because it was my really good friends, you know, involved.
He said, come on, bro, we're going. Bro, you raped a girl. Trent and Malik raped someone. That's, like, this is not, like, funny. Like, it's hilarious.
I'm sorry, but Nody's funny.
It's not.
This is the funniest thing I've ever
You know, quite often I just wish I was with my friend Trent the whole night and, you know, nothing would have ever happened. The love and care I have for my friends, so I just didn't want to see them in any bad situations. And I just wish it never happened. And I don't know.
Huh?
For the most part, there was no negative fallout on me speaking up. Everyone knew that, you know, what I was saying was in the right. People were, like, not thinking what the reality of the situation was.
Throughout the investigation, because everybody was asking questions, not only how this happened among the teenagers, but which adults knew about this. Did adults know that something happened and not report it? People were asking the question, what was going on in Steubenville?
A notorious rape case took an unexpected turn today. Charges were filed against the superintendent of schools, a principal, and 2 coaches.
After the August rape was reported, there was kind of an explosion of conversation about an incident that happened in April.
Is it true that some of these charges do not relate to the rape case that we all understand, the 16-year-old, the 2 boys who were arrested, that some of the charges are related to an earlier rape of a 14-year-old student who came forward after the publicity over the case that we're all aware of? Is that true? Do these charges stem from separate incidents?
I will simply say that there was a separate incident.
There were a number of adults that were aware that something happened way back in the spring, in April, and involved a young woman in a very similar situation to what happened in August.
It was on Twitter, actually. They had all tweeted about it in April.
What we do know is that she was a 14-year-old girl. She had had a lot to drink, and at some point she was not completely conscious. She was in a room that was mostly full of boys, and she was naked. Some of the witnesses told police they heard Trent Mays and Anthony Craig may have had sex with her. That wasn't something she really had a recollection of, although she did tell police that afterwards people started telling her things. Some people started calling her a slut or a whore in school, that some of the guys had run a train on her. She did tell police that she didn't want to get anybody in trouble for what happened. That and the fact she was really being harassed for whatever happened that night, and a lot of blame being placed on her.
It seems that the grand jury was able to look back in time and actually punish a pattern of conduct, which is really what a lot of people in the community were calling for, right?
We had adults who were frankly more worried about protecting an institution or worried about protecting some kids, and they were not concerned about the victim. And that's really what this is about, a failure to protect the victim.
It's more about the culture that contributed to the rape in the first place. If someone who's really important to your school or your town or your football team is accused of something, there's always going to be a lot of people coming to their aid to explain what happened or what didn't happen. If people knew about this in April, if teachers knew about it, if coaches knew about it, if a principal knew about it, if parents knew about it, why was nothing done about that? And then we have August.
I don't know, you wish that the coaches, the adults, whoever, all these people that were involved had not chosen to do what they did. No one said this was a big mistake, this was super bad behavior, this is not how men should behave, this is not how women should be treated. That's one of the things that felt like a failure.
The town's in need of healing and unification. It's in need of building of community. As largely publicized and national as that went, how do we overcome that? There's something, I don't know how to say it on camera because it's not very popular. One of the ways that we could heal is to actually address rape and make a place of healing for victims, perpetrators, or family members of rape. Because crime, all crime, affects an entire community, especially something as grievous as rape.
You know, there's a part of this town and the community that I think, you know, especially because of the school that's involved, there was those who sided and those who don't. I saw people respond that way. I'd run into people in the store, and right away they would be attacking. You know, part of the lesson learned here that I have is victim blaming. Blaming the victim, blaming the victim. Sorry, that's not what this investigation's about. In the sense for a town moving forward, this is just still a long way to go.
We're not convicting an entire team. And people need to remember that. There are a lot of individuals up there who are good students, good kids, good football players. This is one of the preeminent programs in the state of Ohio. This is how we identify. And that's what gave it the air of, okay, we don't have to answer to anybody. But that's the mentality that's got to go. Then the truth does get out. And then let the chips fall where they may.
The tattoo means in Latin, always the truth. And I wanted to get something that signified the journey that I had been on. And I just thought that that was very profound. And so I got it. don't even think I put a label on it about what happened. And it was a guy who I was dating who was older than me. His brother raped me. And I kept it quiet. It doesn't define who I am. But of course, somebody that has been through that, it's going to hit home. So, you know, when I saw this going on, you know, I felt an obligation to do something. People are still mad. They're still talking about it. So I think that things can change.
Am I wrong to feel pain? These are the thoughts I have when I feel shame. I'm not alone. We've all lived something. If we share, it's not for nothing. We are wrong to want more. Can you